Dominic has made his choice. Kelly Roll has debuted at SummerSlam, and we have a very special guest. This is SummerSlam's Dangerous Jobbers Pod.
People have been asking me why, Eddie, why?
I'm better than you.
My eyes are red. I was in the back smoking a joint with Van Dam.
You know it.
All right, man. It feels really good to be coming off of this pay-per-view. But before we do this, we gotta do it right. And because it's the biggest party of the summer, it's only right we have a special guest. Duke, who do we have? Who do we have for the people this episode?
Well, me and this guest, we were talking a little bit about SummerSlam. We had a little bit of banter back and forth. And you know what? We came to the conclusion that seeing that it's the biggest party of the summer, and there's a lot that we got to get off our chest, we might as well bring him back on. Y'all seen him before. Y'all gonna see him again. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, the champ, Dee the Toy Hunter.
All right, D.
What's good,
up,
fellas?
man?
What's good, man?
Hey, a little applause for D.
Yeah.
What's going on, man? How you been?
Been good, man. I'm, just feeling great, feeling, just blessed and everything. But we got to talk about last night, and plus, me and Duke got some things we got to get off our chest.
Mm-hmm.
That we do.
So I mean, I know there's one thing I said. I told Duke we'll talk a little bit about this, and I play devil's advocate because I think you guys might be right. But we were talking about this off cam, and it's been some short matches for SummerSlam. The matches, the match cards, they're all great matches. I felt like I had a good time watching it, but it should be noted that they were a little shorter than normal.
Yeah.
So Duke, you thought it might be all of the ads and maybe the video packages. Does it hurt or help?
So I'm gonna say right off the bat, I have no gripes with the matches. I think the matches themselves were good, but like you said, and like I mentioned backstage, I feel like the matches themselves were relatively short, and the promos, whatever you want to call them, they were a little bit longer than they needed to be. Like, I think at one point in time, there was like 3 or 4 ad/promos just consecutively. Like, there was one promoting one of the pay-per-views coming up. There was the Manscaped one right after that. And then there was a promo package right for another match. And even the promo packages, don't get me wrong, I like them, but they just felt like a little bit longer than they needed to be. I don't know if that's just because, they're writers or Hollywood writers or what have you, but it just felt like they were a little longer than they needed to be for my taste.
I agree with Duke. I said it backstage. I'm going to say it again on camera. I was not a fan of the Manscaped ad because anybody who watches my channel know how I feel about Otis.
Hey, I feel the same way. I'm right there with you.
Because when I saw that ad, I just sat there. It's like, and I'm eating pizza as I'm watching, as this ad pops up. It's like I ain't even hungry no more. I don't even want this. Like, why did you need to show that?
The funny thing is that ad popped up, and the first thing that came to my mind is, "Where's D when you need him?" Just hit the button. Just hit the button. That was the first thing that came to my mind. Where's D at to hit the button when you need him?
I'll make you a deal, dude. I'm gonna send you that clip.
Oh yeah.
That'd be a great idea.
I'll get Stevie to throw it in the pot at some point.
Yeah, that'd be dope. That'd be dope. It'd be a nice little nugget for the people. But I mean, yeah. So it did kind of take away, but I don't know. I was in and out the room a lot, so it didn't feel as long to me. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this, and not that I want to shoot them mini bail for it, because I like longer matches, but it is supposed to be, in a way they're another kind of Super Bowl for them, and they always have a lot of commercials at the biggest events. So maybe this was one of those things where they cut down the match times for the ads because it was SummerSlam, and hopefully it'll be, a only Big Four kind of thing. Um, but I do put a lot of credit to the wrestlers that it didn't feel like the matches were as short as they ended up being.
I think I can give you that one.
Yeah, I'll definitely give you that. It is.
Um,
It's just like some matches felt longer,
mhm.
and you didn't realize how long they were until like we were talking about it back, before we went live, and it's just kind of like, really?
Yeah, it does strike you. I was
Mm-hmm.
surprised. I was surprised. Well, let's talk about the first match.
Yeah.
Speaking of the matches, man, let's get into it. They started with a banger.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was more of a storyteller banger than an in-ring banger, but we can get into it. Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan for the Women's World Championship. Um, Mommy versus Liv. Dom coming out with Rhea. They had a fantastic match, but as far as the key points, it really was them having the dislocated shoulder that Rhea suffered, her putting it back in, and that was kind of the story arc of the night
Mm-hmm.
until the ending where some mishap with chairs happens, and I don't know if it was always planned or if it was a spur of the moment thing, but Liv ends up walking away. Guys, tell me your reactions about how the match ended so we can talk about that, and then what we think about Dom's decision maybe at the end.
Go ahead, D. I'll let you go first.
The ending to this match, it caught me off guard, but you knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the way it happened, because I've been kind of going over it in my head, and I was going over it in the kitchen while I was, fixing myself something to eat. It was almost like Kane, Edge, and Lita from the Gold Rush tournament back in like 2004, 2005. Kind of like
Mm-hmm.
that whole thing. And it in a way, it also reminded me of Edge, Lita, and Matt Hardy.
Okay.
But the chair spot, that definitely caught me off guard because I'm just like, uh-uh. And then at the end, Dom giving that smirk, I'm like, you
You
So you knew
two-timing,
you knew after the
backstabbing.
smirk, like it didn't take you seeing him pick her up. Like you already knew by the smirk when he walked away after it happened, like, oh, he did that on purpose.
yeah. So as
Yeah.
soon as he smirked, I'm like, you dirty, mm-mm.
You know what?
Yeah, because at first I thought maybe it was a distraction. I mean, like, well, maybe it was like because he was distracting Rhea by telling her to use the chair. Because they've done that play before too, where they wanted
Mm.
them to cheat and them, not wanting to do it got in the way.
Which is out of
Um,
the family playbook, but that's neither
so
here or there.
I thought maybe it was. It turns out it was a reverse Eddie Guerrero. That's what I said when I saw it. I was like,
Mhm.
oh shoot, it's a reverse Eddie Guerrero. He slid the chair in, and then I thought it was a reverse Eddie Guerrero because he convinces Rhea to use the chair, thus distracting Rhea for Liv to pull off the Oblivion on purpose. which was like which I didn't get until the smirk, and I was like, oh, okay. But I thought that there's a fair argument that as good as the match was, and as well the story was told, because Rhea had to do a lot of fighting, so it felt like an uphill battle.
Mm-hmm.
If you paid attention to the stats going into it, they really do kind of commentary really does kind of make it feel like Rhea's the underdog somehow, which I thought was funny because they said the only person to beat Rhea in the last 2 years via pinfall was Liv, who's also the person that injured her and took her man and took her belt. So it was like
And
in a storyline kind of way, she's kind of the underdog here. Like she deserves this win.
And they brought up that Liv has been undefeated since like April in singles competition. They
So
managed to drop that little nugget in there.
yeah, they dropped enough stats in there to tell the story if you didn't already know. But I thought the finish was great because it felt like the only thing I would argue is that Rhea should have been smart enough to know not to get the chair. But that point aside, I think it ended like I said, like I didn't see it coming, but I felt like this would happen. Because I was already arguing with Duke that to move on to Dom's choice at the end, some people could argue he chose up.
And you know what? When the turn happened, at first glance, I was like Pat McAfee and Michael Cole. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, you dirty two-timing SOB. But upon further examinations and further deliberations, Dom and Liv are not in the wrong here. They are absolutely 100% right in what they did. And I agree with them.
Do you agree with this?
I agree with it 150%. Now, hear me out here.
D?
Hear me out here. Before you throw stones at me, just listen.
I'm listening.
When Judgment Day first started, Rhea was in the group, and who did she beat up before she got in the group? She beat up on Liv. Who did she beat up when she was in the group to get him in? She beat up on Dom. Dom and Liv kind of just destroyed Judgment Day from the inside on their own terms. They really are the heroes in this. They the underdogs that came up and ultimately came out for the better. Rhea's the evil one here.
What do you think, D? Would you have done the same thing?
I'm sorry, but as much as
Go ahead.
I will neither confirm nor deny if I would did the same thing.
Yes, I got it out of him. There we go.
Approach. That's a diplomatic approach.
There we go.
Okay.
But I will say this. And I'm talking to you, Jay Uso. It's your time to shoot your shot.
It's your time.
But instead of taking her to Waffle House, you got to take her to IHOP. You got to take her one above.
You got to go a little bit above.
You got to take her to the top. Take her to IHOP.
Hey, man.
Yeet.
I agree with you there. Yeet. I'll give you that one.
All right. Moving on to the IT title match, the shortest match of the night, I think.
Yes.
But I think we called how it was gonna go. It was kind of a Goldberg style, a Goldberg Brock style
squash.
Yes.
It squash, but like a power moves match. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Squash.
Nothing but signatures and finishers and good kickouts and builds and hitting the spots. It was kind of the best kind of spot fest. That's really what I would call it. Sammy looked strong. He looked, don't get me wrong, he looked like he was getting beat up in there, but he looked strong. He looked like a comp. He reminded me of like an NXT Sami Zayn, which is the best kind of Sami Zayn, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
He took a lot of the big hits, but he's the underdog.
He got some hits
So
in too.
it's his job to get off the Blue Thunder and the turnbuckles, suplex and the haluva kick and so I felt like it went exactly how it should have went. Braun ends up hitting 2 spears at the end to win the match.
Yeah.
The Steiners were there.
Yeah.
So I guess my question would be, how do you feel about Sammy's reign? Because I think we all saw Braun becoming champion. And I don't want to put your name in it, but I feel like D, maybe you also saw Sammy's reign ending at SummerSlam.
I think a lot of people did, honestly.
So I guess the question would be, how do you feel about the reign overall? Because I thought about it in my head. The reason Braun winning was so easy to call for me was the fact that I felt Sammy didn't make a whole lot of sense as champion anyway. So the reign felt weird to me and it never really caught on. So it felt like, oh, well, of course, Braun, the one with like a good story and a place to go with this, would probably win. But maybe that's just one perspective of how Sammy winning the IC title in Mania went.
I say I kind of agree with you here. Sammy winning the title, it didn't really make sense at Mania, but story wise, it's Philly, WrestleMania. Everybody sees Philly as the underdog team, underdog city, however you want to take it. So, given a good underdog story at Mania, at that point in time, Sammy winning, it absolutely makes sense. It did make sense in a certain way, but like you said, he didn't make too much waves in this title run because he didn't really necessarily need to. You figure he had his little thing with Chad Gable. Okay, cool. And then aside from that, it was mostly just crickets. But I thought SummerSlam was going to be the spot for him to drop it. You figure April is what? Mania, right? May, June, July. He gets a good 3 to 4 months as the champion.
Mm-hmm.
Had a good, decent feud with Gable. And then after that, you kind of just, there you go. So I wasn't, he didn't have the worst mid-card title reign ever. Didn't have close to the best, but it kind of served a purpose.
D, how do you feel?
I mean, I thought the reign was okay at best.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just like, dude, I get why he won at Mania because of, the Philly thing. Underdog story, underdog town. Let's throw in the fact that Ring of Honor and all those Northeast promotions were based out of there. So it's like I get it, but also at the same time, it's like he had like the 3 to 4 solid matches with Chad Gable, and then after that, it was just kind of like
Crickets.
Yeah.
basically crickets. And then when Braun kind of, got pushed into the, title picture, it was just, you just kept thinking to yourself, like, Braun is it.
It's almost
He's
inevitable.
it because I've said it time and time again, and I know a lot of other, wrestling podcasters such as yourself and fans have said it. Braun Breaker is a future world champion. So why not start his, career off on Monday Night Raw with him holding, the Intercontinental Championship, and let's see if he can elevated, to the same levels as the world title. I mean, he elevated it like Gunther did? Probably not. But it's gonna take one hell of a person to take that IC title away from Braun Breaker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll definitely take a hell of a character. I appreciated the respect that they put on Sammy. And they even told a little bit of that during the match. Like Sammy has faced giants. Sammy has faced the world on his own. So I did understand like the part in the match where Braun is slapping him, telling him to stay down, give up, you got no chance, you're all alone, nobody's gonna save you. And it kind of pissed Sammy off and I thought to myself, save Sammy? Nobody saves Sammy. Even if Sammy loses all the time, he goes down fighting, by himself. Nobody saves Sammy.
Mm-hmm.
So I get the respect they put on his name, but I say that just like you guys describing those 3 or 4 solid matches with Chad, I felt like a lot of the reign was just them trying to make up for the fact that they didn't put the strap on Chad. Cause it just felt like Chad should have been the guy. We shoehorned Sammy into this because he had nothing to do. And instead of making Chad the Rocky, we made Sammy the Rocky. But the people were not happy about that. So now we got to do something about that for Chad. And then I guess maybe they had Bray or Bo planned all along. Maybe they didn't. I'm not really sure. But it felt like they went with that until they found something for Chad to do. And then simultaneously, Breaker had reached a point where he was kind of doing so good, you had to give him something.
Yeah.
Speaking about people that seem so good, we eventually had to give him something. LA Knight versus Logan Paul for the United States Championship. I had a text from my dad after this match saying, because he's not an LA Knight fan, he feels like probably how his demographic is supposed to feel about LA Knight. I'm not gonna lie to you, that he's just the Hulk Hogan Stone Cold ripoff. And he's absolutely sick of him. And he was like, I can't. It's gonna be so annoying to watch him be champion. But I don't know, man. I feel like he's won a lot of people over. I feel like he's displayed some of who he is genuinely. But LA Knight comes out in the prime mobile, I guess you could call it, breaking the window, coming into Cleveland, where Logan Paul has showed up with Machine Gun Kelly of all people.
Oh,
Now, is Machine Gun Kelly from Cleveland? Yes. Is he affiliated with WWE previously? Yes. But did it make all the sense in the world? Was it aesthetically pleasing to the eye to see those two coexisting together on the same team? Not really. It was a little weird. But I mean, MGK served his purpose, I guess. LA
Somebody go
Knight,
get Eminem.
LA Knight, fortunately enough, is a tough head.
At least he didn't have a man bun.
This is true.
Listen, Brock had a man bun. All right, tough guys have man buns too.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing: we scared of Brock. We ain't scared of MGK.
Nobody's scared of Water Gun Kelly.
But unfortunately, the brass knucks chain must have been fake because it was not enough to put LA Knight away. Or LA Knight just got a strong face, man, because he took like almost 2 of those lucky punches and the brass knucks to turn it right around into a BFT and pull out the win. It's about time. Do we feel good about the LA Knight title victory? I feel like everyone thought this might have been a predictable one.
I'll let you go first, D.
It was about time because you didn't let him win Money in the Bank, the last couple of
Twice.
years.
Mhm.
He's been like one of the hottest guys on the roster for the last 2 or 3 years. So yeah, it's about time because I'll be honest, a lot of fans were starting to lose faith in LA Knight.
Mm.
So him, him winning the United States title is like, okay, it's about time. Now, where do you go from here? Does he have a lengthy reign? Is he a transitional thing? Like, where do you go with LA Knight? I mean, obviously, we know he can talk. He's a great in ring competitor, but we're giving you this title. Let's see what you can do with it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment 100%. I was hoping that they didn't have LA Knight go the same way as people like him previous, like a Cesaro, like a Morrison, like a Shelton Benjamin. I was hoping he didn't go the way of the dodo, in a sense. Like
Mm.
he's hot at this point. Let's not waste it.
Mhm.
And it took us a little over a year to realize, oh damn, this dude's hot. We got to give him something. I'm glad they finally gave it to him. I hope they do right by it because he really has been busting his ass since he got to the main roster. And it's been showing because mostly everybody's been behind him. So I'm
Mhm.
glad that they finally had the wherewithal to give him something. And hopefully it turns out to be great.
Well, let me ask you guys this, and then we'll move on to probably my favorite match of the night. Um, Tell me how you feel about if the possibility of LA Knight having a glass ceiling as a gimmick. Um, on the strength of LA Knight being so hot right away and him kind of having that attitude era style in today's era, and that being kind of the great makeup of his gimmick, even though he genuinely is just being who he is, but it just comes off so attitude era.
Mm-hmm.
And he definitely plays into it as well. Do you feel like that's gonna be an Achilles heel when you come up against characters like the Cody Rhodes and the Roman Reigns and the Seth Rollins of the world that are all kind of genuinely their character and they don't come off as such a remix to people?
So,
Do you feel like there's a glass ceiling when he tries to elevate to that next level?
so for now, yes. When I think that'll change, January 1st, 2025. When we finally get that Netflix deal and we can finally get into being a little more edgy with the way we talk and the way we act and everything else, I think the way he promos, the fact that they'll be off of cable and on a whole different platform, the way he'll be able to have even more free reign to say what he really wants to say and promo how he wants to promo. I
Mhm.
think that's just going to build him up just a step higher even more now. So I think for now, for the time being, sure, there could be a glass ceiling there. But once wrestling hits that new platform, I think that glass ceiling won't even matter anymore.
Mm.
I agree with Duke again, 100%. He has the ability to shatter the glass ceiling, but for right now, he's kind of just poking at it. He's cracking it, but he
Yeah.
ain't shattered it yet.
Mhm.
And I will say, I think he's doing a better job at cracking that glass ceiling more than the people that I've named previous that I compared him
Mhm.
to, like the Cesaros, the Sheltons, the whoever's. I think he's doing a much better job at least trying to get through the ceiling than them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And plus, you got
Yeah.
to think with those other guys, Cesaro, Shelton Benjamin, those guys, they were great wrestlers, but couldn't talk.
Yeah, and he happens to have the best of both worlds.
Right.
Mhm. All right, I dig that. Uh, let's move on to the women's match. My personal favorite match, only because I can remember my reaction at the end, and it definitely was a hyper reaction than the outcome of all the other matches, which is saying a lot. Um, but if you know how much I love Nia Jax, you can understand. Bailey versus Nia Jax for the WWE Women's Championship, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
WWE Women's. Yeah.
Um, Nia Jax versus Bailey. Tiffany Stratton ends up coming out at the end of what I feel like was just really kind of a squash. They had a good back and forth, but somewhere towards the middle, it started to really add up. And I thought about, I don't ask me why, because we all know how these things are actually produced and played out. But part of me was looking at it like, I don't think if the match goes longer than it should, that Bailey's gonna have a good time. Because I feel like you just don't take so many Nia Jax hits, you can keep getting back up. And that's kind of what the match felt like. It felt like it was very on Bailey's side at the beginning. And then somewhere towards the middle, Nia might have just started hitting her with a little too many. And I can tell you the tide was changing as far as my expectations. Right around the time she lays out Bailey and Nia Jax goes taunting her, talking about the promos from the last week, saying, "Oh, I'm so reckless, I'm so clumsy," and I was like, "Oh, she is locked in. You have pissed her off. This is about to get really fun." And was I devastated when Tiffany's music hit because I thought she was about to turn on Nia Jax? Absolutely, but but, but it all seemed to work out. As it turns out, Tiffany was the distraction for Bailey. I think.
Question mark.
I think that's what happened.
Big question mark.
Question mark.
But it resulted in Nia giving her the Annihilator twice, and just giving me one of the best feelings I felt in a while watching a wrestling match that ended a way I did not expect it to. Because I jumped out of my seat when that 3 count hit, and I realized Nia is actually becoming a serious champion for once in her life.
For
She's
once.
been booked strong like she's supposed to. She goes in to beat the champion that she should beat and beats her. This is a new era and a new time. And The Rock is running the show, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
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 So
Let me tell you who texted this man before that match and said, make sure my homegirl wins. Okay. No excuses. There's a new man in charge, and his name is not Triple H. It's The Rock.
look, I'll say this: for as often as I have ragdolled and made fun of the way Nia performs in ring and the way she promos on this day in August of 2024, I'm still gonna do the same shit. But but
I was about to say, I was about to start to sing Edge
there,
on this day.
but
See
I will
clearly. Nope.
I will say this: she has improved from years previous. She's gotten better in the ring. She's gotten better on the microphone. I will forever love that BBL Bailey line. She's gotten better in both. So, with that being said,
Mm-hmm.
and the way Bailey's title reign has felt this time around,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not upset with Nia being the champ right now.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
will,
That's all I asked for.
I will give Nia a fair crack and let her be the champ.
Because she earned it, right?
I just hope
'Cause
she doesn't
earned
hurt her
it.
hole this time. We're gonna give it a fair crack. I just hope she don't hurt her
Man.
hole.
Yeah, very funny. Very, very funny. Very funny. You see this? Sorry. Sorry. One day we're gonna talk about Reigns, dude. One day, one day maybe the three of us are gonna talk about Reigns that mattered and didn't matter.
Oh
Cause
boy,
I
I got a
feel like,
whole list of them.
oh yeah, oh
It don't
yeah,
matter as long as it
oh yeah.
happens.
Hey, listen, it can happen all it wanted to. You can't tell me one classic from the Del Rio matches. He held that title a long time though, didn't he?
I'm not even gonna say nothing about that. We could just
We just gonna sweep that one under the rug.
Yeah, yeah.
sweep.
And some of our favorites is famous for not having great runs, but I think this Nia Jax run is going to be much better than the Bailey one we've had since Mania.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another talk we got into. We got to
You
get
know
into
what?
about what really matters. Is it the build or is it the title reign?
Yeah, true.
That might separate the boys from the men right there.
First of all,
The
I'm gonna
girls from the
mourn the
women.
loss for BBL Bailey.
I'm not saying that I didn't want to. I think we all wanted her to win at Mania. You know, we all thought
Yeah,
she
we
deserved
we
to
all
have
wanted
the
her to
belt.
win. It's just
But
I'm mourning the loss of BBL Bailey, but also at the same time, this is probably the first time I will. This will be the first time for me taking Nia Jax seriously for once in her career.
that's all I ever wanted. That's all
Yeah,
I ever.
I'm
Yo,
I'm in that boat.
all I ever want for the people I root for is to be taken seriously one time. Those are the people I believe in. The people I believe in as wrestlers are the ones where I go, if they could just be taken seriously for a split second, they could have the run of a lifetime.
Hey, I'm just saying you looked at me like I had three heads when I told you Becky could be something. So I will at least give you the fair crack that I gotta see if Nia
No,
can be.
because listen, just like I was like, we gotta have that talk. I didn't think the man was so great after Ronda left. I'll keep it at that.
Hey, but
Um,
she was still great.
she was great. She was great. I'm not gonna say she wasn't great. I'm just gonna say I don't remember much after she beat Ronda Rousey.
A lot of people don't, but that's neither here nor
Well,
there.
yeah, exactly.
All,
But
all I'm saying is you want people to win all the time. Who didn't want Dean Ambrose to win that world heavyweight title? I mean that world title and take it to SmackDown. Everyone wanted him to win until AJ Styles showed up and we was like, yeah, he might carry it a little better than you have been. You can want people to win all you want, but
I gotta,
sometimes the reigns just don't add up.
yeah, but we comparing apples and oranges at that point now.
Are we? Are we? Are This is what I'm saying. We'll get into it.
AJ Styles,
We'll get
really?
into it another time. Well, it's not about AJ. It's about Dean not doing what he was supposed to do for the belt, and then making a quick minute replacement to somebody they knew could do the job. That's what I mean.
And also in the process, getting somebody over who wasn't supposed to get over, but somehow got over.
Exactly. Liv Morgan, Bailey, Sammy, other people. Do we want to stop here and talk about Jelly Roll's part of the night? Does anyone want to say anything about Jelly Roll and his
Can
part
we
of
keep Jelly forever, please? Can we keep him? Like, we need him back every pay-per-view, live event, whatever you want to call him. We need him making music for everything. He needs to do the next 2K soundtrack while we at it too.
You want him to be Saliva for the 2020s?
But he could be Motorhead for all I care.
He
He
can
could
be
be
Motorhead.
whatever. Motorhead that chokeslam people. I don't remember Lemmy ever chokeslamming somebody the way Jelly Roll did.
No, I don't think it can.
and me and Duke, we were texting back and forth. That was a crisp choke slam.
It was
I
a good
ain't
choke.
I ain't seen a choke slam like that. Honestly, I've always said that Kane has always had the best choke slam in the business. Jelly Roll will now has the best choke slam in the business.
Right.
I don't care what nobody says.
I just
we can keep Jelly.
I did think the build and the look over was great. They had a good build. He was with the crowd, and then he gave that look to him, like, "All right, here we go."
Mm-hmm.
Threw him up
Hey,
there. I thought that was
you
good.
see him holding that steel chair like the kid in the candy store. He was like,
Yeah, you can tell he was a fan.
Yeah.
That's always much appreciated. I
And
thought he did a great
you
job.
could tell he was having a time of his life because I was like, yo, how many times is he gonna give R-Truth a kiss on the cheek? He done kissed that man like 4 times.
Well, shit, he gets them both. He gets,
Yeah, but I
he
was like,
was
yo,
listen.
he kissed them all like 4
You'd have
times
done
on
the
the
same
cheek.
thing. You'd have done the same thing. You'd have done the
Look,
same
I'm like,
thing.
maybe he's just extra Italian. I don't know.
No, Jelly Roll was
They-
just happy to be in a
Yeah.
WWE
But,
ring.
but again, I didn't mind it. That was like somebody
Yeah.
living out one of their dreams right there. So I was
If
all
they
for it. And he did
if
it
they
very
let you
well.
jump off the top rope, you'd have did the same thing.
Oh, you damn Skippy. I'd have did
And
the whole
as long as he
thing and
wasn't
all.
Snoop Dogg, as long as he didn't jump off the top rope like Snoop Dogg at AEW, I'd have been okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen,
And,
Snoop
and I
is
and I
Snoop is a
love
big one for
Snoop.
the team though. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I love Snoop Dogg, but no.
Jelly Roll is the new #1 musician for WWE.
Yeah.
No ifs,
Don't let
ands,
Bad
or
Bunny
buts.
hear that.
I would debate that with anybody. Look, and I'm Puerto Rican. I would debate that all day. Me and Bad Bunny can sit down and have a conversation.
All right, man. Well, let's get into the special guest referee match because after that's the only two title matches. Seth Rollins comes out, and the three of these men, Seth Rollins being the special guest referee,
Playing
kind
the
of
role of
put
Shawn
on
Michaels.
is playing the role of Shawn Michaels. To Dee's amazing point, they kind of gave a collective tribute to what I believe may have been the first special guest referee SummerSlam match. That
Second.
being second,
Second. Yeah.
being Shawn Michaels, the special guest referee to The Undertaker and Bret the Hitman Hart, which makes Drew's attire look a lot more recognizable now that you can tell he was going for an Undertaker kind of vibe. Because Punk's gear made sense immediately. Seth wore fancy ref gear. It did reference Shawn Michaels, but it was also just fancy Seth Rollins, ref gear. Drew's one kind of took me off guard. I wasn't really sure what he was going for. I thought it might have been a Loch Ness monster or something. And then like my dad said he looked like a Serpenter from like G.I. Joe. And I was like, I'm
Wow.
not really sure what he was going for.
I said reptile from Mortal Kombat.
Reptile from Mortal Kombat. Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one too. Yeah. Maybe tell us in the comments what he was going for there. But they had a banger of a match. Seth, for the most part, let them do what they wanted to do. He kept it fair, but he kept it loose. He refed it like I would say Lucha Libre ref a match. And I'm only saying that because I've referenced Lucha Underground because they ref like Mexican refs in there, and they just kind of let you do whatever except the actual line. So if you like, for instance, if you yell at a ref to stop counting in like Lucha Libre, they'll probably stop counting. You know what I mean? They'll count to they'll count to 9 and then kind of let you bang out till you get back in. Um, but that was essentially Seth Rollins. He let them go as hard as they wanted to go, but when chairs and weapons kind of came into it, he drew the line in the sand, and he kept it as a fair fight for the most part. This gets kind of, I'll say the ending and then I'll leave it to your guys for interpretation, but it kind of goes into this ego driven obsession thing with CM Punk towards the end. As the closer the fight starts to get, the more, almost the same way Drew was totally consumed by CM Punk, Punk came totally consumed with this bracelet that got stolen from him. And it ends up ultimately costing him the match because he got angry at Seth Rollins for doing his job. And so we were thinking about the end point of Punk and Drew. And then I know last week, me and Duke, we were talking about maybe a Rock Cody Roman situation where they wanted Seth, but they couldn't really fit it in there, so they had to kind of introduce him in this role. But ultimately, it just kind of felt like Punk screwing himself out of a match. How did it feel for y'all? Where do you think this is going? Does it all end right here? Is there like where does this go?
Personally, I don't think it ends. It transitions into Punk and Seth.
Mm.
And to me, you have to ask yourself this question: who turns heel first, Punk or Seth?
Mm.
Yeah. I feel like that's going to be a tough spot because realistically, could they both be heels? Sure, they both can be phenomenal heels. Can they both be a face? Absolutely. They both are phenomenal faces. They're good at whatever they do. But I guess the right way to do it would be who can piss the fans off more. And I would think right now in this current state, as much as I don't want to do it, it would probably have to be Seth, right? Because the fans now are just so happy to see Punk back that maybe they don't want to boo him just yet. See, I don't
Would that be
know.
your
That's the tough spot is who's the I don't know. I guess I
mean,
would have to see. And
if you look at the build for Taker and Shawn back in '97, to me, it's literally the exact same thing.
mm.
Does it
Like
lead to? Yeah, I mean, I figured, does it lead to a match at maybe Survivor Series or the Rumble? Maybe Mania next year. We don't know. But I feel like this is going to turn into one of that kind of like feud situation.
mm-hmm.
It's like don't you you can't boo Punk, but it's one of those things like, do you boo Seth or do you boo Punk? Because Punk said on the promo on the Go Home show, everybody
it's a
sings.
50-50.
Yeah, everybody sings Seth's song. Everybody, chants CM Punk. So you don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, how does Drew get off scot-free in this? Because the weird thing is, if Punk shows up Monday and goes, "I lost because you wore the bracelet trying to mess with me," does this become a story of Punk's ego just forcing him to be the bad guy in situations? Because I could easily see the story becoming you're too into whatever you think is going on to realize that nobody, you just end up getting in fights with people that didn't want you there anyway. And you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot in these multiple instances. I don't know if that's the arc they want to go on, or if
Mm-hmm.
because I could see Seth turning heel, but at the same time, do we really need a reinvented Seth Rollins? I'm kind of happy with the Seth Rollins we got right now.
I am too.
I don't think it's gotten old yet, and
Yeah,
I feel
I
like
don't.
it might be much easier for Punk's ego to kind of write him into a bad guy role without him being a bad guy necessarily,
Well,
but clearly having like an ego issue where he blames other people, and there's a gray area where they could be responsible, but it's probably just you. Because that's really what happened here. You had him beat Anaconda Vice. You
you
couldn't
know
keep your
what?
eyes off the bracelet.
I
You had him beat GTS. You couldn't keep your eyes off the bracelet. Then you blamed him when you screwed it up like it was his fault.
Really, I think
I
the
think what we can do. Go ahead.
I I personally think when
You're good.
Punk
Go ahead.
saw Seth with the bracelet on, that's what kind of ticked him off.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I see the Punk and Seth thing going.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Drew, I think he's still in the
Mhm.
middle of it, but he'll be more of a background player, and Seth and Punk will be at the forefront.
Mm. Okay, so you might be pulling strings in the back. It's still like that guy that's trying to make sense to everybody, and maybe nobody's listening to him.
Yeah, I was
I
Yeah,
gonna
could see
say
that.
I can agree with that, but my question is actually not even so much of a question. It's kind of just like a mini revelation, I guess. Maybe Punk would need to be the heel because the last few times Drew's fought somebody like in a significant way, I remember like vividly him saying something like people aren't the same after they fight him, and they usually wind up changing their character or they wind up changing sides or becoming heel. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
that could be a thing where Punk kind of takes the heel approach after fighting Drew, and Drew can kind of hold that over. I don't know, maybe.
I could see that. I could see that. Seth is usually the one. Yeah, I could see that. There's been a couple times where he's been the punk, where Drew's been a catalyst to change for people.
Plus it keeps Seth as the face.
Yeah,
yeah. This is
yeah,
one
I
of
could
those
see that.
we'll see type stories.
We gotta let him cook. We
Yeah,
gotta let him cook.
we gotta let it unfold at
Mhm.
least until
Yeah,
January
let him cook.
2025. Yeah.
Um, on to the World Heavyweight
Mm-hmm.
Championship. Damian Priest versus Gunther. As the Judgment Day unfolds, we witness another banger of a match. I thought these two went out and did, I think, not even both of them, but more so Damian Priest. I thought he really put on for himself. Not that they didn't have a banger together, but I feel like it's so important in your last defenses to really give the people everything of you so that they can leave going, man, the right guy may have won, but let's not forget how good the champion that had it was. And it felt like this was exactly that for Priest. He came out of the blocks swinging. They hit each other equally as hard, which is something I haven't seen uh, in a Gunther match in
Ever.
ever. Yeah, I don't even think it wasn't even fair when he was fighting Ilya and Ilya beat him. You know what I mean? It still felt like this just was not, it wasn't an equal fight. This was the first time I felt like they were evenly matched. And the edge here, clearly because of Finn Balor, went to Gunther. So give me first, we'll do thoughts on the match and then thoughts on, where the bloodline is at. I mean, not the bloodline, where the Judgment Day is after this.
All right.
This was probably
So I'm gonna kick this one off. Oh, I gotta kick this one off. I'm sorry. So
go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
love Damian Priest. Priest is my boy. They had a great match. I'm glad they made Priest look like he was very, very much up there with Gunther
Mm-hmm.
because of the history they have on the indie together. But the right person won. I'm glad Gunther won. He gets to showcase what he can do as a champion now, as the main guy. But damn it, Damien, you did this to yourself just like Rhea did it to herself. This is all your fault, and you got what you deserve. I'm gonna leave it there.
Damn, dude.
Got what he deserved. Well, how do you feel, D? Did he get what he deserved? Did he do this to himself?
In a way, he did, but I will say this about Priest: this is probably the best match he had as champion,
Mm.
and I hate to see his reign come to an end the way it did, but also at the same time, and Duke, I hate you. He did it to himself.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, gentlemen. He did it to himself. He did it to himself. And maybe Rhea's was a little more confusing. You know, Rhea's was uh long term trauma kind of being solved for Dom in a way. From somebody beating him up to somebody treating him like a man. Um but this one was kind of a little easier to see, especially if you're a guy with a bro. We all have bros, and we you got to treat your bro with respect, and more so than that, you got to learn who the veterans are around here. You know what I'm saying? You, you got to know who the veterans are around here. I came down to y'all level. Y'all didn't come up to. I didn't need y'all. You know what I'm saying? And I think the problem here is that in all this Judgment Day mess, Finn, in a true star way, has decided to take the backseat to elevate everyone else. And the important thing to remember as part of that group is he's still the best guy in the group. And you have to treat him with a certain level of respect so that he doesn't feel like he's wasting his time with you. And you know, for Carlito, he's just there having fun.
I love
You know,
Carlito.
for Dominic, Finn is like a second dad or a third if you count Eddie Guerrero. And then if you're JD, that's your mentor. Okay, the only person out of here that isn't putting Finn above him in ranks is Damien. And I think Finn started to slowly realize that, and then it started to get disrespectful. You know, you go all the way to him. Somebody put up that picture of him grabbing Finn's face that one time. There's a way to go about things. You don't just put your hands on Finn Balor, man. That's not how this goes. And then gripping him up in the, I think that did him in. Gripping him up after the Dominic turn, because it was bad enough that seed that was planted on Raw when he went to fight Gunther at the main event. And they kept saying, everyone kept saying, and I got to tell you, you don't know how. I'm sure you guys know how annoying it is when you know how to do something and someone keeps insisting that you need help to do it, and it feels disrespectful if you feel like they should know that you can handle yourself. And all night that night, if you need help, if you need help, I really think you might need help. And Finn is by the end of the night, Finn is like, yo, like, I'm Finn Balor. Like, I don't think the rest of the group understands that I'm Finn Balor. Like, I'm the guy. Is you should be the one asking for help.
And see, here's the thing about Finn Balor. Finn Balor started this. So
Which, even if you look at the landscape now, is a very prominent thing.
yeah, so I mean, you don't disrespect Finn. He started one of the more iconic factions, probably of the last 10 to 15 years over in Japan. You do not ignore him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he's on trajectory to possibly reunite with a few of them because a lot of the originators are currently where he's at. You know what I'm saying? He ain't got a lot.
War of the Five.
You know, you should Finn Balor. You should fear Finn Balor more than he should fear you. He is still the prince, and I think Damian made a vital mistake in not respecting the hierarchy. It is a vital rule in all stables to respect the hierarchy.
Yeah.
And putting your hands on Finn Balor multiple times, thinking he can't get the job done, him feeling like you don't believe in him is a big problem. So by the end of the end of Rhea and Liv's match, when Finn walked away and Damien tried to call him and he was already gone, I was like, it's over. I think that was the nail in the coffin. And sure enough,
Mm-hmm.
he did all he needed to do to change the tide in that close match and cost Damien everything. But in the end,
We on demon time now.
that's not respecting the hierarchy.
And plus, we got to realize that when there was dissension at one point in time in the Judgment Day, we kind of crowned Damian Priest as the leader, but in reality, Finn Balor's been the leader all along.
People tend to get that messed up, but here's the funny thing. I'll give you one better, D. Remember when there was dissension in the blood in the Judgment Day, and they kept saying there is no leader of the Judgment Day. Remember that was their thing for a minute, and then Rhea left, and all of a sudden I'm the leader of Judgment Day. Which listen, Finn gave him every pass in the world. To his credit, Finn let him be leader. Finn let him have this whole stand on his own thing that he was doing, as long as he felt like he was respected, because that was his boy. But you don't cross the prince but too many times, man. He really let you try to rock. But in reality, because this is the funny thing about it, we may have been holding Damian Priest this high the whole time, but come Monday, when you think, oh, we're going to get Priest versus Finn, a lot of us that have seen Finn over the years, even if you only seen Finn in WWE, are going to look at it and go, I think that's probably more Finn than it is Damian. I think Damian's kind of the underdog here, which has been a lot of Damian's story. And I think Damian is probably the only one who doesn't know that. And a lot of the people you've been fighting, you kind of the underdog, bruh. So I think this is going to be that hard dose of reality. Believing that, we'll end on the biggest news of the night. The reason I chose this shirt that I'm wearing. Bloodline rules. Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa. The new tribal chief. Possibly.
No.
He comes out. You know, I love the gear. I love everything about Solo's run. I love how serious he was. You know, Cody came out with Pharaoh and Arn Anderson, not to the ring, but backstage before the entrance, which I thought was super dope.
Yes.
I do think Arn kind of gave it away, but it's fine.
He did. But the thing is with Arn Anderson, and a lot of older wrestling fans, myself included, will say this: when have you not heard Arn Anderson cut a bad promo?
Yeah. You're right. He will pull out the Glock on you. But it was a great entrance. It was a great Bloodline rules match. I felt like it was, even though we've only seen one other one, it did feel like a traditional Bloodline rules match. You know, it was in phases. They had the match itself, and then they had the shenanigans. Who comes out to fight for who, and then in the end, when they're splayed out across the ring. Whose music hits? None other than the returning tribal chief, the OTC, which I somebody said maybe the original tribal chief, could be the only tribal chief. I'm not really sure which one it is yet. But Roman Reigns shows up, the head of the table, and reluctantly almost delivers a spear to one Solo Sikoa, which coincidentally leads to Cody Rhodes winning the match and retaining what he otherwise would not have, the undisputed WWE Championship. I will note that Fatu did a great job, but injured himself, as it looks like. Hopefully, his foot won't be out long, but it did look like he was supposed to hit one more spot after that table match, after that table spot, and he couldn't get up.
Yeah.
But to his credit, being a veteran, he knew exactly what to do in that moment, not to waste too much time and make it look awkward. He pretty much played like it was part of the story and motioned the Solo to move to the next spot while keeping it kind of, fast paced. But hopefully that doesn't ruin. I'm sure it does, but hopefully it doesn't ruin too many plans in the next coming weeks. Hopefully it's like a short 3-week thing, and then by next pay-per-view he's back. And they'll just keep him on TV in the background, hopefully. But Roman Reigns comes back and takes out Solo Sikoa, costing Cody a win. How do we feel about Roman returning? How do we feel about Roman coming back for Solo? How do we feel about the look Roman was giving Cody on the ramp as he was celebrating? What are our thoughts, man?
Take it away, dude. First of all, wow, because I didn't see that coming.
You didn't expect Roman so fast?
Mm-mm.
Did you expect Solo to walk out?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. I didn't see that. It was just. It was a wild moment, and I feel like now that that's happened, we're going to see the seeds start to be planted for at least the next, up until Mania next year. We'll say that. So
for what match though?
I mean, obviously at Survivor Series, we're getting Bloodline versus Bloodline. That's obvious. Which is why a lot of the things that have happened up until now, and I'll throw Sammy in there. A lot of the stuff just kind of made sense. It's just a matter of, we know we're getting Bloodline versus Bloodline, but
we got to figure out how to get there.
Yeah, we got to figure out how to get there, because you're going to have it at Survivor Series. I imagine Roman Solo at Mania next year.
Okay. That bullet first, and then Cody later.
Yeah. Because I see Cody holding on to the title at least till this time next year.
I think that's fair. It's only right. Yeah. If it takes anyone long enough to even get that far again, you know what I mean? I think this year it might be Cody Rock at Mania. So I think you're right.
Yeah, that's what I'm figuring.
Yeah. I think they figure out who leads the bloodline this Mania. And then maybe SummerSlam or next Mania, they figure out somebody versus Cody to actually take it off of him. If that, who knows? But yeah, we're definitely headed to Bloodline versus Bloodline. So how is Cody coexisting with Roman over the next few weeks? Where does Cody go after having no more bloodline problems? Or is Cody forced to be part of the bloodline Survivor Series match? Because interestingly enough, I think Duke had the theory that the fourth man might be Cody in a condition for Survivor Series. Though I do believe it could still be Sammy, and that's why we freed him up. It could still be Cody. But where are you at on that? Do you still think that, Duke? Yeah, let's get to that. Do you still think it's gonna be Cody subbing in his fourth man? Or do you see Cody
So I
getting
think
distracted by something else?
I think Cody's gonna have to get involved for the greater good, but I could also see this as all right. So let me see. We got Solo, Jacob, and the Tongans. Yeah, see, Cody might have to get involved for the greater good. If if Jimmy's really out with an injury, like they're saying he is, or if he's just storyline out, Cody might have to get involved in this match for the greater good. But if not, we can distract Cody with something else on SmackDown while the Bloodline handles what they got to handle. But I don't think Cody is completely done with Bloodline stuff at all.
All right, so maybe Cody is forced to be in War Games via not being able to escape the bloodline stuff. I think that might actually cause them to lose, though. He ain't gonna hold you.
Yeah,
That could cause them to lose. I could see that getting tricky.
I don't know. It's tricky. It's tricky.
All right, so D, where you at? Is Cody a good sub, or should we keep it Sammy and the Usos and distract Cody with someone else, if there is someone else to distract him with?
I mean, you have to distract him because I honestly see Sammy, the Usos, and Roman.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's the only
way to do it.
It's the only way to do it to me.
Mm-hmm.
The OG bloodline versus the budget bloodline, as I like to call it.
The budget bloodline. I like that.
But I don't that's the only way I see it. Now, who distracts Cody? Maybe we get a Cody, Randy, Kevin triple threat.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Logan Paul gets another shot. We don't know as far as with Cody, as far as being distracted. But this is one of those let's wait and see how this plays out situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is definitely it, and that's so bloodline too. To be able to be like, I don't really know where this goes after that. We gonna have to watch next week. We're gonna have to figure out how they flip this one and make it make sense.
It's a let it cook time.
Yeah, it's a let it cook time. It's definitely let it cook time, which is great because it is SummerSlam and it should feel like WrestleMania, where we have great endings and then we're like, let them cook. One more thing and then we'll get out of here, guys. How do y'all feel about pretty much every title changing hands except for Liv's? I did realize that. Like, I get you gotta crown the kings and queens, right? But pretty much every title but the start and the finish have changed. This is like literally it's a shift.
Yeah, it is a shift. And honestly, I don't mind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Me neither.
Good shift.
Yeah, it's a good shift. It was more of a let's hit the reset button. Let's give these other guys and girls a chance and let's see where it goes.
Do you feel like this should be sort of the routine every 6 months? Not every 6 months, but every Mania to SummerSlam to Mania to SummerSlam. I feel like it isn't
Not
not maybe
always.
not so large of a shift, but it starts to feel like I feel like if they do it too much, it'll start to feel like quarters of the year. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like every once in a while it's okay, but
Mhm.
I think this time around it was needed,
It was a healthy
but it
shift.
doesn't need to be every 6 months. But
Mhm.
this time around,
It,
it was healthy. It was a nice refresher. It was good.
it gives the fans us something to look forward to now that that reset has happened,
Mhm.
because you kind of get the old champions out of there. They're obviously going to get their rematches, but also at the same time, this gives them a chance to build new stars,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
is something Vince never did.
Feel that. I feel that. Well, yo, guys, thank you for lasting this long with us. D, I want to thank you, especially for hanging on so late. I know we're doing this, keeping you up, but I want to thank you for coming on, man. It's always a pleasure to have you. We always have these great, amazing talks, man. And for the people who are just new to us, D, tell them where they can find you, man.
Well, you can always find me on YouTube at Dee the Toy Hunter, because I'm bringing you the latest and greatest in wrestling figure collecting. You can also find me on X, Twitter, Dee the Toy Hunter, and you can also find me on Instagram, Dee the Toy Hunter _1.
Booyah. All right, man. Well, one more time, thank you for coming on. And guys, if you didn't rock with us this entire hour, like, subscribe, because you've been here an hour, man. I don't know what you're doing if you're not. And thank you for sticking with us and kicking it with us as we review SummerSlam. It's always a pleasure. And I'm gonna have Duke send us home and tell everybody, you know, stay up.
All right, everybody. Make sure y'all stay up. Make sure y'all stay blessed. And as always, stay dangerous.
People have been asking me,
To be the best in the world.
why, Eddie, why?